It's the Redirect Podcast, search industry research, discussion, and analysis from the Black Truck Media and Marketing Headquarters. And now, redirecting you to the Black Truck team.
Welcome to episode 17 of the Redirect Podcast. It is Friday, September 29th, 2017 as of this recording. I'm Jason Dodge, founder of Black Truck Media and Marketing, and I'm joined once again by Patrick and Ashley from the Black Truck team. We made it through almost another month of search engine optimization and search engine marketing trends.
Yeah, October's next week.
And one big thing to point out is that Google turned 19 this week. 19 years old, which in the tech industry is like, might as well be ancient. So whether you like it or not, many in the SEO field have to thank Google for their career. I, for one, would have to thank Google for my career and the growth and development there. But really since 1998, Google has been making advances in search and ad distribution, and ad revenue alone. Google now leads digital and mobile ad revenue. There's predictions out there. I think it was Recode had done a really great blog post this week on something like nearly 50 billion in ad revenue will be generated from mobile devices alone, and that's just on Google's platform.
Yikes!
Let alone any like native ads or anything like that. So, yeah, crazy stuff. But anyways, in this episode, I think we've got a lot of really great things to share. As usual, round robin style. While normally none of us know what the other is going to talk on, I think Patrick and I are already going to be competing on things. So let's move forward and tag team the big thing. I think we both stumbled on an article this week. Tom Demers from Search Engine Land wrote. I'm getting the eye roll and head nod from Patrick that reducing page speed, specifically with WordPress sites. I think Tom's piece was very much on how to, in a non-developer language, how to take basically 2 seconds off of a WordPress site, which if a human being has the attention span of 3 seconds, 2 seconds is a lifetime, right?
Yeah.
But I think really, the ever-popular CMS that is WordPress powers a lot of websites. There's a lot of websites that we deal with, even maybe some of our own personal sites. The Black Truck site's a WordPress site too. Depending on the site and the way it's built, it's kind of I pitch it as it's a buyer beware type of a platform. If you have a theme, a commercially available theme that's getting choked down with a lot of code and a lot of plugins and add-ons, it's inherently going to be slower. And then if you're working with a poor developer, even for a scratch one-off WordPress site, it can be slowed down. So Tom makes some really great points focusing on kind of 3 key areas for making a WordPress site as quick as possible. And I think that's the main lead in here is how do you make your site as quick as possible
for the average person. That's what caught my attention. Earlier in the week, you and I exchanged some emails back and forth how I talked about the hang-ups at development sometimes when it comes to optimizing a site. And us as SEOs, we know enough to be dangerous on the development side, but maybe not enough to actually be effective on the development side. And so this one being the non-developer's guide to reducing load time really caught me. And I thought that was the integral part about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's big, and we get asked a lot, well, how do we optimize for that? We're working on a project right now, not in WordPress, but it's a very large site in another CMS that we won't mention at this time, not to muddy the waters, but grading of a site in general from a performance standpoint, even to Tom's point in this article, can be a bit wonky. One of my favorite words is that depending on the tool that you're using, you're going to get different results back. If we use Google's Page Speed Insights tool, which is always a fallback for us, we might get different results from that as, say, some of the other tools that Tom mentions in his post, like Pingdom or CDN's free tool, stuff like that. So, but the key areas that Tom picks on, let's kind of look at those, Pat, is time to first byte. So TTFB That's defined as how quickly after a request is made that your server or CDN sends the first byte of data. So the request is made, how quickly does the first byte come back? And then the critical render path, or when the site starts to render. So when your quote unquote above the fold content actually renders on the page, mobile or desktop. And then full page render is obviously you stop getting the little twirly ball and everything is finally loaded.
The above the fold one was one I really liked. The TTFB, the time to first byte, I'd never heard that phrase before. I knew what it was, I just never heard it formalized in that phrase. But the time you basically click the link to the time data is sent back.
Something.
Yeah, it's milliseconds we're talking here, and it's basically undetectable to most users.
Yeah, I don't know a human being that's detecting 200 milliseconds, which is kind of the idealistic goal to hit.
That's the computer side of it versus the above the fold content and the full page render is where users can get frustrated, and that's where you see your drop off. What was it? 53% of visits are abandoned on mobile if a site like Tar takes longer than 3 seconds to load. 53%. That's a lot.
Yeah. That's crazy.
53% of people are leaving if it takes longer than 3 seconds to load the page.
Which is certainly why we see advancements with AMP, with AMP on certain sites, especially news pages and things like that. But I think the start render, so that's again a reminder that's like the above the fold content is ideally under 1 second, or at least kept under 2 seconds. That's the goal here that Tom has outlined. And if he's talking about, hey, these are ways in a WordPress site you can shave off 2 seconds, then easily you should be able to cut things down. So, and I thought he did a good job too, pulling in, how do you get the full page to render in under 3 seconds? I mean, that would be, ideal, perfect world, right? So anyways, common elements, and these are common elements we see, as I look through like our own technical analysis and on-page performance of looking at a home page and then going deeper into like a secondary internal page to see how they're performing.
Right.
So the biggies are images are always a big thing, and I know we've talked about it a number of times already on the Redirect podcast as well as with clients. So compressing and resizing images, reduction in just general server response times, enabling compression, leverage browser caching, eliminate render blocking code above the fold, so your CSS and JavaScript, and then minifying code where possible. Right. So, do you want to talk about the images, Patrick?
The images, we've touched on it so many times here. Making the image the right size for the requirements of the template of the website.
Yeah.
If it's something that says I need this to be 200 kilobytes by 200 pixels by 300 pixels at 72 dpi, there's no reason to upload a 40 megabyte image. You can render that image exactly that size, and it won't take anything away from the way it's viewed on the screen. And if you do that across the site, it's going to dramatically increase. The biggest one that this article talked about was the whole article tested 4 sites, did the same test across 4 sites. In one site particularly, it had one homepage image that was gigantic, that was really screwing everything up, and they changed that one, and it had a dramatic increase in load time just on that one alone.
Reduction in load time.
Yeah, reduction in load time.
I think that's a huge thing. We even experienced it this week where we ran just on the homepage alone. We were able to reduce the file size of the load by 1 megabyte. That's huge. So they had a massive homepage slider image that was call it 500 kilobytes alone, and we were able to cut that down using free applications like Tiny PNG. Reduced it to 210 kilobytes. We took the biggest decrease there was another one that was 370. I'm looking at live data right now. and reduced it down to 79 kilobytes. So a 78% reduction.
Without affecting the way the image is displayed on the screen.
Yeah. So that homepage image file size alone reduced by 68%, which is, desktop's incredible. Mobile alone is a great.
And those changes aren't detectable to the naked eye.
No.
To someone looking at the site.
No. Yeah, so to maybe a designer, photographer, anybody that's actually supplying you with the assets, again, it always goes back to, well, yeah, here they are in the size you require, they're 72 DPI. Well, they're still large.
Right.
Because of maybe file type or just how they were developed. So I think it's really good. I think the big thing, too, is Tom suggested a plugin. It's Optimus for WordPress. So a lot of the plugins that are mentioned in here are free, and we'll talk about those.
Right.
But I think maybe a word of caution with plugins in general is you need to watch how they're going to interact and work in your site and theme.
He actually even stated that inside here. It's whatever the hosting source they were using. He said, plugins, you got to be careful because they might not be compatible with all your hosting sources, and get one that works well with where you're running your site.
WP Engine will kick it out. DreamHost will kick it out. So two very popular.
Right.
I think even GoDaddy will kick out certain. There's certain plugins that won't work there in the hosting environment. So I'm a fan of going through them by hand. I mean, I really don't think, especially on your major core pages, depending on how massive the site is.
Right.
Don't muddy it up with another plugin that could then slow it down.
Right.
Go through them by hand, resize, update.
Yep.
The browser caching, I noticed Tom did mention there is one that we use commonly, and that's WP Super Cache. That works really well. Or he mentions WP Rocket. We'll make sure we link to those. Those are really great plugins. And then the one that we fall into a lot of times, since we aren't developers at core, even though we understand the basics, but the CSS and JavaScript, how do you eliminate render blocking code and then minifying code where possible? And he talked about it's called auto. I want to say it right. Optimize, if you will. Is that how you would pronounce that? I know I'm just throwing it out there at random.
Optimize.
Oh, there you go.
Optimize?
I like that. That sounds much better. I'll just fumble through it. But what it is it looks for ways, and I kind of verified this with a development partner we work with. You're looking for ways to kind of combine CSS and JavaScript type calls into one. Like if it's being used one place, can it be used in another place? It's basically, you don't want to make multiple calls to get the same action. I'll just kind of end it there. Okay. Is there a way to combine things? Basically be efficient. You know, if I were to go through an assembly line process and say, well, Patrick, you're putting on part A, Ashley's putting on part B, and I'm putting on part C. Well, is there a way just to have Patrick put A, B, and C on in one unit and just keep moving along? Probably. And we could do the same thing for a website. Make it.
It's a good analogy.
Move along faster. Yeah. So I thought it was a really good article and something very timely too.
Yeah. Another takeaway I had in here that we haven't really talked on it yet is don't compare yourself to oranges. You got to make sure if you're curious how your site is performing, don't optimize for the sake of optimizing. Optimize to be better than your competitors and for the people who are coming to your site. So if you look at a big, huge site that's maybe a commerce site or multiple publications a day kind of site, don't compare yourself to that if you're not that. Take a look at a SERP that contains your site, and then look at the other sites that show up in that same SERP and see how they're loading. Run some tests on your competitors and start with the goal of just getting better. Yeah. Not being perfect. Don't let being perfect be the enemy of advancing, is what I took out of that.
That's really great. I think that's super advice. Right. I mean, again, you can run through and have your action steps in place, but then if you're constantly like, oh, why can't I get better? But you're comparing it to a giant, or someone that maybe their site is a lot lighter,
Right.
then you're going down the wrong path.
Right.
That's really good advice. I think in closing on that too, it is good to point out these are very much like DIYs. If you are a digital marketer or even the admin on a site, I mean, you should be able to do these things. And I think Tom even outlined some of them. Like the longest process was maybe like 20 minutes to implement.
Yeah.
These aren't huge things that you should, have to fret too much about, but you might have to do a little bit of digging. But I do think in closing, removing and replacing plugins that are not needed. That should be agnostic to any CMS, not just WordPress. If you're doing Joomla and Drupal and you have add-ons, I think they call them add-ons. One of those calls it an add-on. If it's not being used and it's not needed, get it out of there. There's definitely security issues that can come up. And if for some reason, within the CMS it's still making some sort of a call or it has to be gone through, that's just eating up time. It's not worth it. So get rid of those. And really consult a professional on that too. There's ways to speed these things up.
I found the article really good.
Yeah, I think it's really great. So check that out in the show notes. It'll be, hopefully others will find it very, very helpful. So we'll be sure to link to that.
Cool.
Ashley.
All right. This week I want to share about an article I read called The Collision Between PR, Content, and SEO.
Woo!
Yeah. So this was on Search Engine Watch, and it was written by Jim Yu. And it called out to me as, with my background in PR and being the content strategist here. So he begins by laying out kind of how those three areas, PR, content, and SEO, kind of all work together. And then this isn't like groundbreaking in any way, shape, or form, but I just really liked that he kind of threw this little snippet in the beginning of the article. Talked about how the value of appearing at the top of a search engine results page is arguably equitable with yesteryear's goal of a front page headline. So, looking at it from the PR perspective too, that if you are showing up on page 1 of Google, that's going to boost your brand. And we do talk about that here with what we do for our clients. But I just really appreciated how this article tied together those concepts. And let's see.
That's a great way to frame it.
Yeah.
By the way, not to interrupt, but I do think that that's a great way to frame it, especially if trying to. One of the hardest things to do is explain to people what you're trying to achieve and or maybe more so why you're trying to do it, and that's a really great way to explain it. So if you have to explain the efforts of SEO and content marketing to your boss or whoever's making those decisions, I think that's a big one. Is to be able to say, well, it's like working to get on the first page is like being on the front page of the newspaper or a magazine or whatever.
Yeah. So that concept of awareness, we talk about brand awareness and how the efforts that we make to help boost our clients into that page 1. So that has to do with awareness, and then hopefully persuading the searchers to take action by clicking through to the site. And this wasn't like explicitly said in the article, but it just made me think about like the 3 things that you're trying to do in any PR campaign is, you're either going after awareness or attitude or action. And so it just made me think about how that ties into, it's not necessarily what we think about in our work as SEOs, but we do have impact on those things. And he goes on in the article to talk about breaking down silos between departments, how SEOs and people in PR should be working together so that, any PR materials that are distributed are optimized, any, outreach that's done as far as, sharing content on publications, that everybody's working together, all these different areas are working together to make sure that you get the best results. So there's a lot of great info in this article, and I did take a lot of notes, but I'm not going to read them out loud to you guys. But he kind of wraps it up with a few takeaways or steps for aligning SEO, content development, and public relations. The first point was develop common target personas. And we've kind of had some internal conversation about personas,
Sample Sally.
Yeah, the problem with personas is that they aren't people. So,
Right.
we always value, actually getting information that it's real, about real people, not creating personas, what we think people would want or, yeah. So, I feel like we've heard a lot of people in the industry say the same thing too.
For sure.
And then just to tie in the public relations again, PR is about identifying key publics, which are real people, to establish, two-way communications with for a mutually beneficial relationship. And so to tie that into our human-centered strategies that we like to go after, we want to gather information that will help us serve real people. And it's not just for our sake as marketers, but for the sake of the customers too. It's that mutually beneficial relationship. I'm just tying together concepts.
Well, and those relationships though too even go back to what we talked about last week
right.
in the Redirect podcast.
Yep,
about growing your local footprint. So local SEO, tie it now in with PR, is that those relationships you have in the community, whether you are speaking, whether you have whatever your community involvement is, as that notoriety at the local level grows, as will your brand, online, voice grows, et cetera, et cetera. So,
yep.
That I think was more a topic of link building and what we were talking about, Pat. I can't remember if you or Ashley brought it up, but that's a big one.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's really good.
So,
what was the PR, cover the three portions of PR again?
So through a public relations campaign, you can do one or two or all three of these, but you want to, raise awareness of your issue or organization.
Mm-hmm.
You want to change people's attitudes toward your issue or organization, and then you want to inspire action in some way, shape, or form.
So if we were to tie that back to SEO or just general search marketing, awareness would be someone who doesn't know of your brand, or if they know of your brand, they don't know of the product or service we're talking about, right? So methods to get in front of them and make them, make it known. Changing attitude is probably more in what I just mentioned, was they know of your brand, maybe they didn't have a great experience with it, so how do we change that around? Maybe that's through reputation marketing, local SEO reviews, social media, and then inspiring action is that next step, right? They reach out and get in touch, or they click. So they click on an ad, it's a PPC ad, maybe they click on the organic SERP result because it's got a really well written meta description that prompts that. So I think it's really important that we do showcase how PR can then intertwine with what we're doing in the SEO world. So that's really good.
Yeah, I feel like I said inspire, but the real word that any PR person's gonna want to hear is persuade. PR is about persuasion, persuading people to take action. Yeah.
You mean PR people? You guys don't like spin, twist?
Yeah, let's not get started on that.
Come on. All right. Well, back to writing press releases for link building here. So, on that note, all right. So. Looking forward to our next episode here next week. We'll have some new content coming. We'll be in a new month. Exciting things coming. We have a new website that's going to launch soon. Woo. And getting excited about all of those things. So until next time, good luck.
This has been the Redirect Podcast. Check out the show notes at blacktruckmedia.com and add us on iTunes and Stitcher.